Good afternoon and good morning to our dear guest. Yes, we have guests from Philippines. They're in Manila. It's already 3 p.m. So good afternoon and good morning to those who are joining us in the Northern Europe, where we are located in Estonia, where it's 10 a.m. And good morning to my colleagues here in our Moticheck office. Good morning, Daryl and Pille.
Good morning.
So soon the camera should switch to Daryl and Pille as well. But before we go into intros, few technicalities. We are planning to talk about 40-45 minutes, and after that we will have a open mic discussion. Currently, the mics are muted for all our participants, just to keep the background noise down. But chat is open, so I really encourage you to get involved, send us chats. We are following the chat, and also react if there is anything to react to. And apart from that, there is nothing really to add. Oh yes, probably you noticed that we are recording the session, so later we can communicate that as well. But now let's go further with the introduction. So my name is Rajasalu. I'm the founding partner and the CEO of Moticheck. My background is heavily related to financial industry, like insurance companies and banks. I have been working as a leader there for 20 plus years, and now the last 5 years I have been leading Moticheck, the employee experience monitoring and leadership support company. What do we mean by leadership support? Well, as we monitor employee experience and sentiment daily, we collect a lot of data from to our customers, and we have the technology that supports the leaders by providing easy to read data, but also the AI is literally mentoring proactively, reactively, so supporting the leaders. Yeah, but now over to you, Pille. Welcome to the webinar.
Hello. Good morning, everyone in Estonia and also in other countries. I'm also from Moticheck team, so building the leadership software today. But my first managerial position I was appointed with when I was 25 years old. So I definitely wasn't ready. These were the wild 90s in post-Soviet Estonia. So it has been really a sweaty road, a learning journey, and that created a really strong passion to find a good leadership, to define a good leadership, what it actually is, and also to support younger leaders in order to make their path maybe a bit more easy than mine has been. So also similar background to Martin, I've been in financial industry, more than 15 years leading pan-Baltic teams. So cross-country leadership is something I've been learning and practicing. So yeah, I'm really about to support leaders to find out what do they need and to build with leaders who have the strong impact to build a better working life for everyone. Hello. Daryl, your turn.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Daryl. I'm a women's leadership coach. I've been in coaching and consulting for about 15 years, and I've worked with thousands of leaders across the globe in a range of different countries. So I primarily work with them to build their confidence, their clarity, increase visibility, and build their influence within organizations as well. So nice to be here with everyone. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So I thought I'd kick off with the first question. A loaded question, but I think it sets the tone for the conversation. So what do we think is the biggest challenge that leaders are either facing or that we've encountered consistently?
Well, if we need to use one title, I would say complexity. I'd say complexity, meaning that the expectations have been widening significantly. So on one hand, the leaders are expected to be empathetic, mental, the well-being coach, career coach, and all that part. On the other hand, there is a really strong pressure on efficiency, meaning that technology, digital solutions is everything we need to concentrate in order to keep on track to be successful, to be sustainable. So complexity. If we need one title, I would go for complexity.
Complexity.
Yeah. I think you named it, but also what I would like to add is maybe the isolation they might feel in being in. I mean, we also have to consider not only the top manager, but the other leadership position in the organization, and really starting from entry-level managers, leaders, and the middle level managers. It's so easy to feel alone with your challenges because you have your team, you have your managers, but you are alone in the role. And it's very easy to get trapped being very lonely there.
What do you think stops people from reaching out now?
Well, that's the other thing that probably we will touch a lot during the next 40 or so minutes is the resources you actually have. You have your, I mean, well, there's a good saying that every bad leader has a leader. So actually, every good leader has also a manager or a leader. So you have your supervisor, someone to reach out. You have your team. Come on, you have the full team. You are not alone. You are not a solo player. You're a team player, right? And then you have your external resources like trainings. You have coach. You might have a coach. You might have a mentor. You have your family or close ones. So a lot of resources. How to actually involve them or use them in a best sense of the word. How do you use them? So there are actually a lot of resources, I think, but the one thing that you might feel that you are short of is time.
And that's not the new thing.
No. So time, loneliness, complexity. There's this word, isn't there? There's banny. Have you come across this word? So it used to be VUCA. There's VUCA world before, so volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And now it's banny, brittle, anxious, N. I can't remember the N or the I for that matter. But the world is changing. So I think there is a degree of complexity, and there's more expectations for leaders in terms of what they need to deal with. There's more on their plate.
Yes, and we are living in a fast-paced world in a sense that not only do we rush to the office or to the meeting or to the video call, but things are changing in a large scale. I mean, take COVID. How much did it change for the active COVID period? But still, I mean, remote work is common across the globe. Take the technology. I recall the times where back at times working in a bank, let's say at the time, let's say the turn of the millennium, where top leaders in a banking industry said that, don't worry about the internet, it would go away. Nobody likes to make payments in internet. Come on. Well, they were wrong. and just considering that, Facebook, Amazon's companies, the leading tech companies are the biggest employers actually in the world. They are dating more than 20 years back. So they are not the new boys in a block. And now we have AI. What does that enable leaders, and what kind of challenges, stress does it bring along? If your core partner or your biggest customer asks, how are you using AI? And you respond that we are not using, they are not believing you, because your employees are using you cannot buy a mobile phone without having at least 2 AI bots installed by the manufacturer, either Apple or Google, Gemini, Siri. They are there already, and you probably have a social media application where also AI is supporting the user. So AI is there. You're using. How do you do it corporately? Well, you have to figure it out. So I mean, we are living in a constant change. That's normal, and that's a challenge.
A lot of things going on. So I did just look up while I was listening to you. I did look up, so non-linear and incomprehensible. So brittle, anxious, non-linear, incomprehensible. This is the world that we're living in and that leaders are having to deal with. So there's a lot going on. And AI, so you're saying, when did AI start? I mean,
quite a long time. I think it was 20 years or something ago when it was already present, but the last, maybe really the last 1.5 years, we have a kind of boom going on, and the big question mark: how should we use? And first, should we use, and then how should we use? And well, taking the Moticheck background into the discussion. So for the 3 years, we have AI-based leadership mentoring function built in the system. And it's really funny when talking to potential customers. So there are 2 kinds of companies. So you make a presentation of the software, and there are ones who say that, yes, I want that because of the AI. And then there are others who still say that it's cool, Moticheck is cool, I want that, but please, let's not talk about AI. We don't want to hear about that. So the difference is still there. There are those who have accepted that it could make our life easier and who are trying to implement it. But even in Moticheck, we got a really kind of, I would call it even serious experience when we were audited in context of using AI and listing all those risks and preparing to be covered with all those risks. So there are companies who probably started this journey, and then there are those who didn't. And again, talking about challenges for leaders, if I'm not the tech guy, for example, being a top manager, so in a way, not wanting to go into this area means that I'm actually building the glass ceiling to the company's development, meaning that we do not officially strategically start to prepare using it. On the same time, we know that on individual contributors, on the individual level, people are still using it. So it's actually a huge risk which is built there. So talking about supporting the leaders, there are definitely those who would need some knowledge, friendly push and nudging to the getting to the field and finding those who would like to take it to their plate and work on it.
Something, sorry to interrupt, but something that I would like to add is that, we're talking about people's financial literature, AI literature now, and I like to draw a parallel with something that the great writer Mark Twain used to say, that the people who decide not to read do not have any advantage compared to those who cannot read. So,
that's very
draw the parallel to technology, AI, or in whatever new situation you are into, you have to, raise your game to a certain level to have the competitive advantage. Otherwise, you don't have it.
But you both, I think, raised interesting points. Pille, you talked about strategy. So I think organizations need to have a strategy when it comes to leadership development and when it comes to how AI can be used to support their leaders. But you also mentioned a couple of things, that there are going to be those who are resistant, there are going to be those who embrace it, and there are going to be those who need a little bit of a nudge and some support. So there's different approaches to take to leadership development. I think there isn't a one size fits all for the different leaders. And this is the key of trying to individualize as much as possible and providing the right level of support with AI and with all these other resources as well. Would you say that's an approach that's feasible? Not feasible?
The pressure for efficiency is really strong. And we are really decreasing stuff. Most of all, we are resigning managers, especially on this lead and first line levels. How to compensate it? I'd say that not only efficiency, but also on the sensation matter, the usage of AI or algorithms or whatever kind of technology is crucial. But yeah, definitely, if that's not the field I'm strong of, then that's not my passion to start develop. So it is like to stay on track. Learning is important for everyone, but also within the team. Like in Moticheck, what we fight for daily is involving everyone into the designing process, into the learning process, into doing together process. So if I, as a manager, if I know that my strengths are not there, definitely in the team, I would find one who would be passionate to be a kind of pioneering, researching, getting help, getting the kind of project started. So yeah, involve everyone and you'll find the one. On the conference we participated on HR Tech, HR head from Telia, for example, described the story, which was very nice practical example that they daily received too many questions and questions which are kind of repeating questions like daily. So there wasn't any strategic high level support on this, but they decided on HR level that but we can create this bot to answer those questions by ourselves. They find those who are interested in the topic. They find those who are technically maybe more advanced and want to play, maybe more adventurous, and they build it. And it now answers like tens of thousands of questions, and people can work and do other and maybe more important stuff, work with people.
So trying to use it as a tool to simplify things as much as possible, because I think there's, as leaders and managers, there's always more and more expectations. But then what you're talking about is how can we leverage the existing tools that we have to simplify things a little more, to free up time so that they can actually spend more time with people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and something I would like to add that when we talk about technology, we tend to think about the new tech that we recently have received that we can play with. But we mentioned the resources that you have, and the team is your biggest resource. And now going back to we probably all have read some stories or managerial books about Toyota and their what's the background of the success, the company and the total quality management, their improvement methodology and innovation, how they have used it. And it's kind of obvious that if you want to become very innovative company, you have two resources, your internal and external. So how do you use them? And so it goes to the developing your leadership and raising managerial game as well. I mean, you have external and internal resources, and of course everyone has their team. So what I'm probably trying to say in a simple word is that, for example, innovation doesn't happen only in universities and laboratories. Innovation happens in your team. Ask your team, what should we do differently? Have you noticed anything that we could do better in terms of processes, daily tasks, and involve, and people will, if they have noticed something, probably it's also painful to continue the old way. So let's change it.
Which comes down to the challenge that Pille mentioned of time, because you've got to have time to be able to sit down beyond the work that you're actually doing, your day-to-day work, to take a step back. And this is what, at least I see, I don't think leaders do enough of, is take a step back, take the time to reflect, and then to be able to look at what to change and what to do differently. So yeah, time, I think, is to your point, is one of the most challenging aspects of finding it. But I have a question, because you were talking about resources. Now, obviously, data is what comes up quite a lot as well. And you talked about how you can simplify some things, but we need data to be able to look at what's working, what's not working. But how much data is too much data?
I've been working in companies where I would say that that we have too much data comparing to my previous experiences. But then again, we still, when we need to make the decisions, then we tend to have that excuse that, well, but we don't have enough data. So, I mean, I don't think there is never enough data. What the leaders will continue to lock this data and time, right? Resources, other resources as well. But again, what is the leadership data? Again, something we've been saying in Moticheck, that the least we do after our meetings with potential customers, that we help you to redefine what is leadership data. So we used to follow up production data. We are very much used to follow up sales data online. That's all kind of obvious, natural. There are so many companies who are following real time the customer experience data, that after every interaction there is a questionnaire, or however you evaluate it and you follow it up. But the sentiment data is not so typical. I mean,
what are you calling sentiment data?
Sentiment data meaning that how does your team actually feel? How does they evaluate different fields of their working experience, their whole daily life? And that's what Moticheck does. So we really map the employee experience in as wide as possible scale in order to find out where we feel well, what makes us more motivated, and what do we like here? What do we desire? So everything which is kind of related with the working culture, and in a way have not been evaluated as much as it should. So people sentiment, people feelings, people emotions, people desires.
I think something that we have to acknowledge is that we, as species, humans are not the most curious ones. People who have dogs, I'm a dog owner, so I know that you may go to the same loop every day with your dog, and the dog is curious curious about the smells on the same loop, on a daily loop. I mean, you go for the 10th year walking exactly the same path, and the dog is still curious. What's new there? Do we display the same level of curiosity in our daily life? No, we don't, but we could apply some of it. And something, a new actually piece or article I'm working on, it's not ready yet, but something that I'm curious about is, well, what triggers the action? And relates to your question, Daryl, as well, that data alone doesn't trigger action. We have to have some level of gut feeling, and maybe the gut feeling alone doesn't trigger the action as well. That we are insecure. Well, is my feeling right or not? We need data to confirm that. So maybe the happy formula is gut feeling plus data equals action, or at least a trigger to do something. So yeah, a lot of data is sometimes overwhelming because you don't feel confident that you understand what it's really saying.
Maybe I might say not gut feeling, but emotion. Just I feel something. Let me validate that with some data, and combining those two elements, so the human element and then the validation of that. Okay, based on these two things, I can now take a decision in a particular direction. And this is what you're saying is the sentiment element. So this was the interesting one, because I think having data is useful, but then it's what do we do with that data? So first of all, I guess it's how we interpret the data.
Yeah.
Then it's, okay, what is relevant, what is not relevant, what do I do with that data? And then when I've decided what to do with that data, what actions do I take? And then how consistently do I take those actions? Because I think I've had a little bit of experience with employee engagement platforms, and in the previous company, they're very high cognitive load. There's a lot of expectation for actions and various things that managers and leaders need to do on top of what they would ordinarily be doing. And then it just doesn't get used because it's too, as I said, a very high cognitive load, and it just takes a lot of time and energy for managers to be able to do something with it. And so I'm a fan of simplicity, because the simpler things are, the easier they are to implement, which then leads to behavior change, which then it's much easier to be consistent with that.
Yeah, and that's actually something I see that it's the time to go back to the strategy bit. In our talk, we have been talking almost half an hour, but strategy comes from the purpose what you want, or your targets, what you want to achieve, really the purpose why you are doing it. You have the strategy, and then it leads to an action or actions. And something what we think about the strategy, we have to think about, yes, the global strategy of our organization, but also the strategy of the support that we are providing to our managers and leaders, and what kind of actions we can do. But those actions have to be also followed up. There are some good practices that I have noticed recently, how companies do it really well. I mean, Moticheck is also a tool that you can use. You can have a strategy that, yes, we involve and engage our employees. How do we do it? But also, and this is sort of can be an action, but also how do you embed it into your other processes, and how do you follow up? And saying following up, I don't mean that you necessarily need to have a target, but you would have, and but people have some kind of expectations. How do you communicate what is your expectation, and how do you follow up? Where do you do it? Well, the good practices that we see among our customers is that well, the leadership team has just established some kind of expectation, saying that we want to be there, and then they decide that, well, let's agree that when a manager is having a one-to-one meeting with a supervisor or his or her manager, then there's this one topic that they always discuss. So that's also a follow-up. It doesn't have to mean that you have to meet a criteria that is expressed in a format of exact figure. For example, 10 is good, 9 is not, but it could be. And I mean, if we support our managers with mentoring, coaching, or we do a training, let's say that we do a training to our middle managers, then what kind of result we expect, how do they implement it into real life? Let's be honest, maybe that's a question to our audience as well. If you participate in training, how much of that what you are learning are really implemented tomorrow?
Yeah. And the week after.
Is it more than 50% of the new material or less?
It's an interesting question. We'll give people time to answer. So what you're talking about is, I like your point about good practice. And good practice, you mentioned, obviously having the right tools, there's training, there's coaching. Pille, what other elements of good practice would you say are important?
In a way, the idea that data itself necessarily doesn't trigger the action. So before that, what we see in Moticheck is the fact that data itself, that we buy the tool, it doesn't solve anything. I mean, the software doesn't solve anything. Still, the first manager or manager with the team has to translate the data, understand, okay, where we have the space for improvements, where we are really strong and we should be proud of. So one thing is really translating, then really using it and using it in daily life in order to make it better. So the trainings are there, the mentoring is there. Maybe one thing which we haven't mentioned, but what have we seen in Moticheck among our clients, but also reading the global opinion leaders, that even if in our companies the top management is well educated and is getting the support, so at least of support is getting by those leaders who are on the middle level or first line managers, that they are not receiving all the support they would need. In a way, they are facing the real life problems, still being exhausted from the times of COVID, where they need to kind of to make it happen with all those fast changing conditions, and the complexity has increased. But yeah, they don't necessarily have the coaches and mentors available. They not necessarily have visited all those great training and so on. If they are lucky, they have still some trainings available. The question, of course, is whether you really implement it in your daily life or not. That always will be there, but they don't have enough support. And I've seen the surveys where the biggest impact of trainings, or like investments made in trainings, we actually get in the companies when we train those mid and first level managers, because there the gap is maybe the biggest. So that is something which would be good to keep in mind and support them, especially, and again, what we see in Moticheck, very often this first team levels managers, they are our best specialists, right? So now we promote them. They will get the manager position. They still keep their own tasks as individual contributors. Do they get the managerial training in order to understand what is expected from them as a leaders? Not necessarily always. And then do we help them to redesign their own workflow, really? Because in many companies we see that on first level, those team leads, they are really a great specialists with a title, but they not mindfully follow also the tasks which they could and should do as a team lead.
A lot of things to unpack. What I hear and what you're saying is strategy is critically important. So it's not just looking at a level of leadership, it's actually looking at the whole structure of the organization and providing the relevant level of support at each different level, but having a holistic, joined up approach. So that's this is something I appreciate as well. People have the same language, people have the same, feel part of the same thing. It's not just this set of leaders are getting it and everybody else isn't, or this set of leaders and everybody else isn't. So it's this joined up holistic approach, which I think is critical to making long-term sustainable changes, as opposed to, as you just said, these very short-term, okay, we've done a training for everybody, that's fine.
Yeah, that's done, then that's checked. Yeah. One really good practical example, which I heard from the customer. We all currently act in limited with limited resources. I mean, and then there was a clearly defined need to educate, to train all our managers in some context. And company understood that they don't have resources for a training from like outside resources. They just currently are so limited. But then they figure out that they have a couple of members in top leadership who have got perfect education on exactly on that line, and they can do, by preparing a bit more, they can do the internal training by themselves. So in a way, they found the resources from inside. Then some leaders got really a new challenging task in order to their own kind of development got a bit boosted because they had to do something new here, and they solved the situation. So not always we can blame the resources or limitations.
I have a question, starting with you, Daryl, but Pille, feel free to join in. But I mean, Daryl, you have been working with people in diverse sectors or industries they are in, but also you have worked with companies from east to west regionally. I mean, from Asia to United Kingdom, United States, but also from south to north. Currently, you're located here in Northern Europe, but you have also seen organization in South Europe. Are there any practices or good examples that you could outline or just bring as an example? What has been cool or seems to be working very well, and you have been working with people individually. I mean, one-to-one coaching. Are there any patterns that we can outline to those people who are in HR role or people and cultural managerial roles, as we call them today?
Oh, that's a tricky question. I think that everything starts with conversations. There has to be just an open conversation about what is working and what is not working. And you just understand different people's perspectives around it. But again, it goes back to the holistic strategy, as opposed to it just being, for example, training or development or coaching or whatever it happens to be, a tick box exercise. Oh, these leaders need a training course. I mean, I've spoken to different providers here. They said, oh, we need a leaders training course. Like, okay, fine. What for? What's the outcome? What are you looking to achieve? Who's going to go through it? And they don't have answers to these questions. HR or the people department have just been told, we need a leadership training program, but they don't understand the reason why, what's going to happen, where's the
desired result?
Where's the desired result? Where's the outcome? When do we have that outcome? What do we want to do with it? And so I think what I've seen, what works well is when there's conversations at all different levels and including all different departments, so that you have this holistic design and picture. What doesn't work well is, you said, is when it's a tick box exercise. People go and do a training and it's nice, but then a few days later, you can't remember what it was and you go back to your day-to-day life and nothing changes. So that's the goods is when it's holistic, you have conversations, you listen, you implement something over a long-term strategy. What doesn't work is tick box exercises that are very short-termist because the impact is not going to last.
Yeah, Martin has the good phrase that piloting is easy, but make the constant change is something which takes real effort.
And it takes money as well. And this is the thing, it is an investment. And you need to see it as an investment. Moticheck as a product. Money. You can't just put it into the company for a few months and expect something to change. No, you've got to look at change over 12, 18, 24, exactly. 30, 36 months. This is when you really get to see behavioral change, a change in terms of how people are feeling about things as well. Because that's what you want. You want the consistency.
Leaders of people and culture in an organization are not solely, and far from that, they are not in administrative roles, but they are really enablers of discussion and conversation.
They should be, but they're generally viewed as administrative. The top leaders have said, we need this to happen. You make that happen. They then make it happen, but it's very disparate. It's not us as a leadership. Okay, we understand that we are involved in the cultural change of the organization or the cultural transformation. We need to take part. It's always, say always, that's a strong word. It's generally outsourced and said, okay, you need to fix this. We have a problem, go sort it out. And so there's just these very separate puzzle pieces, which means that you're not going to have a complete and full puzzle picture at the end when things are separate. So
one more angle here, what I noticed when talking to companies, that on one hand, what is the HR department's role? In a way, well, also they have a lot of on their plate, and if we speak that culture is also like their responsibility, so it involves a lot. But talking about the leadership, often we say that in a way HR has a responsibility on building the leadership. In a way, they hire leaders, they arrange trainings, but then again, they actually not authorized order the trainings. So there is a kind of contradiction that do I have actually power to do something? And even I heard stories that there are some industries where maybe the leadership has got less attention. Now they try to fill the gap and arrange a lot. And then I heard the stories where there is a kind of a leadership program going on in the company, but leaders do not show up because they have so many trainings. I need to do the job. So,
the other balance,
And this is something. Sorry to interrupt, but this is something that I relate personally to a lot. I mean, leading without the authority and leading without budget. So leading without authority, I have found good books about managing your stakeholders, which has helped me a lot. And the other thing, managing the people maybe above me in a corporate hierarchy actually comes down to the same practices and exercises that you do when you're leading people that are your direct reports. I mean, like one-to-one meetings. With your direct reports, you have officially the meetings that you call one-to-one meetings with your stakeholders, with the people elsewhere in the organization, maybe even above you in a hierarchy. You call those same meetings lunches, morning coffees. But what you do is you organize a opportunity to speak eye to eye with speak one-to-one, see eye to eye with those stakeholders, right? So the same techniques apply when you don't have the authority to lead, but you have to lead. This is something that I have learned.
It's really useful. So I'm just conscious of time in terms of leaving some time for questions. So if we had to summarize some key elements that are going to support leaders today, and actually I think you had some figures as well, didn't you? Not to put you on the spot, I think you had some figures which talk to the level of disengagement.
Yeah.
So what would help?
There are global surveys that really state that Gallup, for example, that the engagement of managers is dropping faster than employees. I mean, they are in danger of burnout. Their motivation is dropping, and it's dropping faster than employees' motivation. So in a way, the stress is clearly there. So we need to address it, and that's why we started this a support question. And by support, we really do not mean the nice and supportive working environment, which is also important, being safe and easy to work in. But it's really new tools, not to be afraid of new tools, and also developing those emotional intelligence related qualities. We cannot deny that these are becoming more and more important, and for many, maybe my age, middle age, older managers, that's not natural. So we kind of need to support it and encourage them to discover new areas in their manager leadership career. But there are even industries where it's estimated, for example, cybersecurity, where it's estimated that half of the managers are about to leave their position, and half of them even are considering leaving the business field itself. So in some industries, it's getting even kind of urgent and burning issue.
Okay, it's critical support. It's not, as we said, it's not a nice to have. It's a critical element, and providing people the tools that's not going to overwhelm them, but it's actually going to support them and allow them to do their jobs more effectively, and being conscious that different generations are obviously going to adopt at different rates. Martin?
Yeah, I mean, tools. Certainly, it goes back to your internal and external resources. People-wise, you have your team, you have your manager, your leader, but you also have a sort of formal and informal groups in an organization. So what do I mean? For example, your management board or your extended management. And as you Daryl said, people in HR roles are enablers. Enable those people to agree on their targets, their strategy, how to reach them, the actions that they decide to take, and also how to follow up.
And I would be very biased and say that seek out a coach. No, I mean, so the reason why I think you need a multi-pronged approach and why sometimes leaders benefit from coaching is if it's a long term, is because that's what really creates sustainable behavior change. I mean, okay, I'm biased, I'm a coach, but I've also experienced it through the coaching that I've had as well. So for me, it's all about conversations and long-term mindset. These are the biggest things they're going to provide the greatest level of support.
Just to interrupt you, Daryl, you mentioned time and being conscious of time. We promised at the beginning that we invite our participants, our guests, to the discussions as well. So I just have to make the notification that the microphones are enabled. So everyone, please feel free to unmute and join in. Yeah, but Pille, back to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to support Daryl's opinion, or like the statement about coaching. I also strongly believe, being also actively involved in Chamber of Mentors in Estonia. So I strongly believe that time to time it's really useful to get help, to just to think with somebody, to discuss it with somebody, to have somebody to ask right questions. Considering my own like a career path, there have been times where I could have been like, it would have been much more easy if I would have had the support available. So I really strongly believe, and which I really want to share and spread widely, that getting help on that sense, taking a coach, taking a mentor, it's not the sign of weakness. It's actually, it's a mindful step. It's the statement that I want to make a longer step, so I need support on this. I need help there. So I'm really dedicated on changing this bias that it's kind of like a sign of weakness.
Something back to the very beginning of our webinar. I would like to add something to the introduction of my very modest co-presenters here. Pille is the head of Estonian Chamber of Mentors, starting from October, September. So recently. So congrats, and really you have a experience of mentoring, and also Daryl has been long into the coaching, and especially coaching leaders, and you specialize on or have been worked a lot with women in leadership, and something that I would like to draw attention of our guest is the newsletter or the articles that Daryl has on his LinkedIn profile or page. I, as a male leader, found very helpful topics where you discuss about women and leadership and the challenges and the struggles, and especially the self-awareness, self-development tools. But also you mentioned that people in a leadership roles, they don't only need support, a mentor, but also a sponsor in some cases. So really the internal and back to internal and external resources, we should map them and be aware of them. Awareness.
Exactly.
And not to be stuck to the tools we have, but yeah, be open-minded, look around you, and take the time to do that.
Still, is there any questions for us? We would be happy to discuss it with you.
People just enjoying listening potentially. So
and it's Friday already. It's fine.
It's Friday, and it was just snowing as well.
For those who are not in Estonia, during our conversation here, it was snowing and it's sunshine already. So we have really interesting, fast-changing conditions.
That's what you said. You said if people are in Manila, maybe we can tell them that it's going to snow, and it did.
Yeah.
So you predicted it yesterday.
Yeah, if the webinar is not interesting enough, then the weather is the external environment, and actually that is something that we have to be aware in our managerial and leadership roles as well, that the environment we are in as an organization, as individuals, is changing a lot and fast. Just be mindful about that. So we are not sticking situations and we cannot be stuck there. It's changing environment, one fast-paced world we are living in. Yeah, we are coming to the top of the hour, so it's time to wind it up. Something I want to ask, so how to reach out to you, Pille and Daryl?
Well, find me in LinkedIn, find me in the Moticheck homepage. We have on the Moticheck homepage, we have the contacts there. So feel free to reach out and discuss other leadership issues, but definitely let us show the benefits our clients have found with our ongoing monitoring of the people sentiment and how our customers have really benefited and what they have kind of reflected or reported that what they have gained.
Sure. How can I and the rest of the people can reach you?
You're already connected to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is the best place. So again, I can help or support. Do so.
Yeah, good. And yeah, for myself, Pille mentioned moticheck.com is the website, and of course LinkedIn works well. Now it's 11 o'clock here in Tallinn, so it's time for us to wind up and close the webinar for this time. Feel free to follow us and see you next time. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you very much. Sure.
Thank you. Bye bye.